We know that the people of Newcastle, as well as the people of New South Wales, do not want our electricity assets sold off. So just who is Tim Owen representing?
Newcastle Port is an impressive site. Handling 4,000 ship movements a year, it's worth more than $17 billion to our economy.
We've got the people, we've got the systems, we've got the planning. What a great place to be.
Today, the Port Corporation's CEO spoke of its future potential, including plans for 10 additional berths and to diversify beyond the current 40 commodities.
People knocking on the door to continue to increase that trade, to do more.
The expansion plans have strong support from established companies within the port.
As the port develops and there's more traffic and there's more business there, we employ a lot of people. We look to try and benefit from that volume.
However, Mr Webb also indicated there's no room in the Port Corporation's plans for Nathan Tinkler's latest venture, a $2.5 billion coal terminal on the former BHP site.
We have a position for coal. It is on Kooragang Island. Newcastle Port Corporation has an agreement for lease with Port Waratah Coal Services to construct Terminal 4.
Plans for that coal terminal were lodged yesterday. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
He retired because of injury back in April, but Michael Bridges couldn't stay away from the game he loves. Tomorrow night he'll start on the bench, and the timing couldn't be better, offering fans a slim hope he'll face former Leeds teammate Harry Kewell. As for our female Jets side, they're in danger of losing touch with the frontrunners following 2 straight losses.
We've conceded far too many goals in the last 2 matches, and that maybe comes down to a little bit of an experience, but we've done a bit of work with the back four and the shape that we're going to play against Melbourne, and hopefully if we tighten things up, we know there's goals in this team.
Providing extra motivation, the game marks the first time keeper Melissa Barbieri has returned to Melbourne after being cut by the club.
She feels a little bit hard done by the Melbourne victory, so hopefully we can get the 3 points and put a smile on her face.
Hannah Brewer is already smiling. She's in line for her first start of the season. Coach Clayton Zane has given her some simple instructions.
We need someone in there that's going to fight a bit more and chase the balls down, and that's what I like doing. So I've just been showing that in training and working as hard as I can, and hopefully I can deliver that.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. It's hard to believe Kurt Fearnley even has a comfort zone, considering he spends so much time outside of it. The gold medalist clearly loves a challenge, on the road, the track, or even in the jungle. Now he's heading to Hobart on the high seas.
If somebody give me a chance to race in the Melbourne Cup or Maccabi Diva, mate, I'd run with it. It feels like the same thing.
This Boxing Day, the Paralympic champion will join several other celebrities on Loyal to raise money for the Humpty Dumpty charity, which buys medical equipment for children's hospitals.
I'm going to go there and just going to try and enjoy every bit of it. The throwing up, the wanting to get home, the being cold and wet and hungry and, all that sort of stuff.
If Fernley needs any advice about the Sydney to Hobart, look no further than Albert Mitchell.
I won 2 Hobart races. One was in Rival in '61 and one was in Piccolo in '76. And, you know, I sailed all over the world and represented Australia in various events.
In total, he competed in 32 races, the last back in 1994. 50 years on from his first win in Rival, the Lake Macquarie Yacht Club legend has been given the honour of starting this year's race.
I just couldn't believe it. Fancy asking me. But really speaking, it's a great honour to think that I've been in so many Hobarts and been invited to really start a Hobart race.
At 77, Albert still sails twice a week and has no plans to retire just yet. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Carved out of ocean rock by convicts in 1820, the Bogey Hole has become much more than just a popular swimming spot. In July, it was named one of Australia's 7 wonders in a competition run by a major airline. And today there was finally a firm monetary commitment by the state government to keep the Newcastle icon open.
$360,000 to reinvigorate and rebirth the Bogey Hole, which is great news for Newcastle.
The Bogey Hole had faced closure amid safety fears due to its eroding railing, crumbling stairway and a lack of an oceanside safety chain. The work will take 2 months and is scheduled to begin in January. It's especially good news for the Greek Orthodox community, which for the past 53 years on Epiphany Sunday has carried out the Blessing of the Waters ceremony.
This year is the 8th of January. I'll get in touch with them on Monday just to make sure that they won't decide to start the day that we're using it.
The State Heritage Council approved new stairs and a 7-metre access platform for the site back in June. Mr Owen says the new safety features won't detract from the Bogey Hole's authenticity.
A heritage sympathetic pool surrounds and netting, so it'll be safe, but it'll be very much in keeping with the design, the original design.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
The thought that people can buy from the person that has created the artwork themselves, I think is really important to a lot of people nowadays. And so it makes present buying a bit more special.
Returning to face her old club, Melissa Barbieri was intent on keeping the victory at bay. Minutes later, only the referee's assistant could stop the home side. Melbourne was dominating proceedings until the Jets stole one against the run of play. Not to be outdone, Jodie Taylor showed why she's one of the league's best. After the break, Lisa Devanna was brought down, but her claims for a penalty were waved away. Seconds later, the midfielder was denied another spot kick. Rubbing salt into an open wound, Taylor snuck in for Melbourne's second as the victory lived up to their name.
Throsby Creek Path is divided by this. 4 lanes of relentless traffic coming off Industrial Drive at 70 kilometres an hour.
You get a situation like today, it's just madness.
Trying to rally the 3 kids across the crossing, yeah, it's pretty hard.
Newcastle Cycleways is now garnering support for a solution. Its preference, a footbridge or an underpass.
The local RTA personnel are really going out of their way to find solutions. And they've already put on the table a plan for a set of traffic lights there that shows that it is viable, it's feasible, it's not too expensive. Our problem is we have absolutely no commitment from the state to fund it.
At upwards of $200,000, the pedestrian lights are the cheapest option.
What sort of price are we going to put on permanent injury or death of a person using this crossing?
Kath Landers, NBN News. It's hard to miss the piles of dated dresses and forlorn futons lining Newcastle's streets, but the biannual spring clean causes a few concerns for council, namely people rifling through the curbside clutter.
More to the point, it's about people driving vehicles through neighbourhoods, double parking, driving unsafely, rifling through piles that are on the footpath.
Once items are left on the street for collection, they become council property, meaning anyone caught pilfering from the piles could face fines, including those after scrap metal.
It also actually reduces the capacity to recover any resources out of that waste, which impacts our ability to sell that on.
Next year, council plans to announce a new collection system designed to reduce the mess and time items are left lying on the street. Kath Landers, NBN News.
It seems winners really are grinners. The Jets had plenty to smile about at recovery this morning following the 3-1 win over Melbourne. Last night, the Jets' largest crowd in 4 seasons set about creating Fortress Newcastle. Some had come to see Socceroos star Harry Kewell, but it was Carlos Hernandez who added the first touch of class. The victory dance was a little strange and definitely premature as Ryan Griffiths earned the Jets a penalty just a few minutes later. He converted from the spot to send the sides into the sheds at 1-1. Less than a minute after the restart, the home side hit the front.
Yeah, it's always good to score, but again, I think it's a team effort and it doesn't matter who scores the goals, but it's good to get off the mark and, yeah, happy.
Melbourne should have had a penalty of their own in the final 10 minutes, but somehow Nikolai Top-or-Stanley survived. Michael Bridges received a standing ovation as he made his long-awaited return, but the largest cheer came in the dying seconds as Ruben Zadkovic forced a turnover before Griffiths bagged a double, in an ominous sign the coach and players believe the best is yet to come.
I still know what I can do. I know what I've got in me, and in terms of quality, I think I'm still got to get there. In terms of work rate, I know I'm working as hard as I can.
Last week, Ian Moore lost a legal battle in the Land and Environment Court. He was trying to stop exploratory drilling on his land, which he argued would have impacted on his farming. But today, New Coal released a statement saying it would abandon the action on his land after meeting with the state government. Mr. Moore says it's a huge relief, but the battle against any future mining work nearby isn't over.
This hasn't stopped the mine. They've still got to apply for a mining licence. But it's a step in the right direction, I believe.
Lock the Gate Alliance and Hunter Communities Network agree.
The win of the Ian Moore case is a ray of hope for the many other communities across the state in their fight against mining interests, in their fight for food and water security.
The big fear is an underground coal mine on Doyle's Creek, which sits on the foothills of prime agricultural land. Meanwhile, questions are being asked as to why the state government took so long to step in.
The government's acted appropriately and the government's acted responsibly. It's a decision for New Coal. What the government did was to facilitate them making a decision.
Kevin Mettam, NBN News.
The story of Hunter Street in recent years has been one of vacant shops and dwindling trade. But away from the mall, it seems things are looking up.
With the Grand Mercure Hotel, there's new cafes and shops, a lot of people on the footpaths.
Now another big name setting up shop in Newcastle West. Camping and adventure chain Anaconda will open its doors this week, predicting an annual turnover of around $5 million.
We range everything from kayaks to bikes to camping, pretty much kind of like a Bunnings of the outdoors.
It's the third outdoor equipment store to set up camp in Newcastle West after MacPac opened in October, directly across the road from Adventure 195. But the smaller players aren't concerned about being overshadowed.
As a locally owned business ourselves, we specialise and we're quite different from what Anaconda or MacPac for that matter supply. We've got a strong position here. We've got a huge catchment area of adventure enthusiasts. Between Brisbane and Sydney there's not much. So Newcastle and especially Newcastle West is becoming the hub for outdoor enthusiasts.
Compare price, all that kind of stuff. So it's good to have a bit of competition around because it brings people to one area.
The Newcastle Now Business Development Group is now looking at ways to keep the commercial momentum on Hunter Street going.
It's things like changing even the street, the way the street works, maybe reducing the traffic down to 2 lanes, getting some seating in the street, increasing the width of the footpaths.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
In the late 1800s, Henry Newton made sure every visitor made a safe arrival in Newcastle Harbour.
At times he would sleep in his office rather than go home if he was worried about weather conditions.
Today, his family helped write a new chapter in the tale of the city's second longest serving harbour master. As the port welcomed its newest addition, a $2.5 million pilot cutter, rightly named Henry Newton. It'll shuttle marine pilots to and from incoming vessels using the latest navigational technology.
They're linked to satellite compass, their own GPS, and also we're connected with the AIS. It just surpasses everything that I imagined, to be quite honest.
That's mainly because it's tough and can reach speeds of up to 50 kilometres per hour.
The seakeeping ability of this vessel is fantastic. We brought up from Port Macquarie in very trying conditions. There was up to 7 metres at times.
Mr Newton's great-granddaughter Pamela Harrison was certainly impressed with the vessel, which is now in operation.
Pilot cutter is used for around 20% of our pilot movements, and at port growing the size we are, that becomes a significant component of our work.
Kevin Metham, NBN News.
It's therapy for me as well as fun, yeah.
Still asking for more stories, more photographs, because that's where the rich tapestry, that's where the variation, the diversity of volunteering comes about.
Following their demolition of Adelaide, Gary Van Egmond called the Mariners the hottest team in the A-League. Ryan Griffiths believes they're beatable.
In terms of football, I think we're playing probably better football than the Mariners. They're just really on fire at the moment. They're scoring a lot of goals.
Griffiths leads the competition in shots. The plan is to improve his conversion rate.
I really think that I've got another one in me next week. I normally sense a goal when it's coming, so hopefully I can do that against the Mariners.
After opening his season's account, Labano Haliti is aiming for more as he plays for a new contract.
This is my home and this is where I made my name and this is the club that's given me a chance. For me, I don't like to think anything else beyond that. I just think train hard, work hard.
To cricket, and Merriweather has claimed a massive scalp in the SCG Cup, beating defending champions Tamworth. The Lions move on to the quarter-finals on the Central Coast on December 28. Still in Tamworth and Cessnock's Cozza Smith has qualified for the National Speedway titles after a win at the State Championship. Curry's Rowan Tungate grabbed third. On the water, and Nobbies has taken out the Open final at round 4 of the Surfboat Series. Dixon Park came up with the goods in the Men's Masters category. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. For a small course, Branxton knows how to make a big impact. Its annual Pro-Am is the only professional event for women in the Hunter, and in the past has attracted the likes of Laura Davies.
From the time we got here to the lady checking us into the hotel across the street to, to now, people coming up thanking me for coming. Well, I thank them for coming out watching us.
Over 23 years and in various forms, the tournament has helped to raise more than $350,000 for the rescued chopper and other vital community assets.
The Breast Cancer Council, prostate cancer, Singleton Palliative Care, the schools, the preschools in and around Branxton and Greta.
With major sponsor Xstrata Coal set to shift its focus to junior sport development, Branxton Golf Club is chasing its own community support.
We'd be looking for a level of sponsorship in and around the $30,000 mark. Certainly that's our target to provide to the Westpac Rescue Helicopter.
Overseas, and Charlestown amateur Jake Higginbottom continues to put the golfing world on notice. At the New Zealand Open, the 18-year-old won a trophy that continues to elude the Wallabies. Higginbottom will now enjoy a few weeks off before his hectic schedule resumes next year.
International qualifying for the British Open early, then Australian amateur and things like that, then a bit of travelling. I'll go to the UK and the US to play a few tournaments over there.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
The Barrys had thought their car was safe, locked and behind a bolted garage door and under the watchful eyes of their boisterous dog Daisy. But at 3:30 this morning, they were woken by police not only telling them that the Nissan Pulsar had been stolen, but that it was found burnt out in nearby bushland. It capped off a horrendous week. They'd spent the previous few hours in hospital watching their 8-month-old granddaughter fight for life after she suffered an allergic reaction to eggs.
We thought we were going to lose her. My dad died a week ago. My mum went to a nursing home yesterday, and this was just the icing on the cake.
What's more, Mr. Barry is recovering from esophageal cancer, and the couple had only just restarted their cleaning business. They say the loss of the car is devastating.
It's a material item, but we really rely on the car, and what do? We'll work it out, though.
We'll get there.
We're strong. We'll get there.
The couple's hard luck doesn't end there. The home they rent has just been sold. They've now got 2 weeks to find a new one. But the Barrys say they don't want charity. They just want people to be aware of the trouble thieves can cause.
It's just some little buggers just want to have fun. And I hope if they're watching the TV, thank you very much.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
12 months after Tilligra Dam was scrapped, Hunter Water's still looking for an alternative for future supplies.
My advice is there are a whole range of options. Nothing's off the table except the Tilligra Dam, so we're looking to find the best, optimal, lowest cost solutions for customers.
A $1 billion desalination plant at Stockton, Belmont or Williamtown is an option, but the new managing director says it's just one of 70 being considered.
It's really too early to look to a solution at this stage. I think the plan is to have by summer of 2013-14 the Lower Hunter Water Plan in place.
Kim Wood joined Hunter Water in October after a controversial stint as CEO of Queensland-based supplier Allconnects. The company was the product of an amalgamation of water services between 3 councils, under which prices rose 20% in just 1 year, causing community outrage.
And what about your 5-storey luxury apartment, Mr. Wood?
I'd be surprised if we saw a 20% price hike or anything like it in a year here. That was a particular issue related to the Gold Coast water business at Allconnects Water, and this is a very different business. It enjoys low prices, and affordability is the message that I'm trying to reinforce with the team and with our customers.
Kath Landers, NBN News.
On the night of the 28th of October 1940, when the German raided Penguin, was 4 miles off the coast, and then proceeded over the next 2 nights to lay 50 mines between Newcastle and Sydney. No one knew anything about it.
When you're young and stupid, you don't realise the fact that you could be killed, you know.
Quite an occasion for Legacy and its oldest member. Blanche Coward turns 110 on the 17th of December.
I never thought I'd ever reach it.
But you wouldn't know it. She lived on her own until a couple of years ago and even caught the community bus to today's luncheon.
She runs in the frame. It doesn't dawdle like a lot of the others.
Mrs. Coward counts walking across the Sydney Harbour Bridge on the day it opened among her fondest memories.
Wonderful. I caught a cold, it was windy.
And she couldn't understand all the fuss today. The centenarian and then some just wanted to talk about the good work of Legacy.
Oh, they're wonderful. Really, really wonderful. And nothing's a trouble.
Meanwhile, there were also celebrations in Newcastle where the grammar school farewelled science teacher Dorothy Ramplin after 38 years.
I like teaching, so I'll miss the job of teaching, but I won't miss all the additional things.
Students clapping out the much loved and respected teacher.
Will be sorely missed, loved by many, many generations of students.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Michael Bridges never wanted his return to overshadow the efforts of his teammates, but it was hard to ignore a standing ovation on Saturday night.
I was quite overawed and had a little bit of lump in my throat and the goosebumps. I got a fantastic reception. I didn't expect that, you know.
The much-anticipated clash with friend Harry Kuehl never eventuated, but the pair still managed some friendly banter after full time.
Yeah, I got the bragging rights, and it was he actually said that the boys worked damn hard, and he said we give them a hell of a game, and that's credit everybody here and in what we're achieving.
Jeremy Brockie has been achieving plenty this season. And it hasn't gone unnoticed. The Kiwi grabbed the winner against the Mariners in Week 3 and has a goal to his name in Gosford from his time with the Fury. With several mates in the Mariners squad, he's got plenty of reasons to be excited about Saturday night.
I've been pretty happy with my form. Home form's been much better than my away form, so that's something that I'm going to be looking to turn around, especially this week down at the Derby.
The Derby may add extra spice, but the Jets coach won't be changing his tactics.
As far as our shape and what we've been talking about in regards to the way we want to play and keep on building on the performances, I think that side of it will be training as usual.
Van Egmond is hoping to keep the majority of his starting 11 together, but could be forced into changes with Job Wheelhouse, Ruben Zadkovic and Bjorn all missing training today. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Three days after arriving home and more than 2 months after their island holiday became hell, the family of the teen, dubbed Bali Boy, has finally spoken about their son's ordeal.
He coped with this experience better than I expected, with the continual support of his mum and myself. We have managed to get this child back home to Australia reasonably unscathed.
The boy's father asked not to be identified to help protect his son from further scrutiny. The 14-year-old was arrested in October, spent time in a detention centre and was eventually given a 2-month sentence for drug use.
Our son did the wrong thing, there is no denying that. And we want people to know that he is genuinely sorry and remorseful for his decisions and actions in Bali.
The man said he never thought his son would break the law.
At the time we decided to travel to Bali, we were not aware that our son was a user of marijuana. There had been previous issues with him, and we believed at that time that we had dealt with that.
Despite frenzied speculation, the family today denied selling its story.
There has been no deal and will be no deal with any media organisation.
The teenager's main priority now is to return to Morisset High School and get his life back to normal as soon as possible. The whole family just wants to put the ordeal behind them and today begged for privacy and understanding. The harrowing experience is said to have irrevocably changed the teen.
He's now more considerate of his decisions and a lot more respectful and more aware of the need for following the laws.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Well, the latest incident at the Orica plant here at Kooragang Island occurred at around 2 o'clock this afternoon when ammonium nitrate solution leaked from 2 storage tanks into a bund, which then overflowed onto the ground. Now, Orica says around 20,000 litres of the solution escaped, and it also says the ammonium nitrate is similar to weak garden fertiliser. It says the company immediately contacted the EPA, which in turn then notified the New South Wales Fire Brigade and hazmat crews were deployed. New South Wales Health says the leak poses no risk to humans, but it comes just 1 day after Orica was allowed to partially restart its ammonia plant, but the company says today's incident has nothing to do with that restart. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
When the global financial crisis hit in 2007, most governments, including Australia's, splurged through stimulus packages. That worked. The problem now is, according to economists such as Randall Ray, the stimulus was withdrawn too soon, particularly in Europe and the United States.
We continue to grow very slowly, we have very high unemployment rates, and it looks like things are getting worse.
They've now taken austerity measures, in other words, cut spending right back in an attempt to reduce budget black holes.
We need either tax cuts or spending increases, or preferably a combination of the two, in order to replace aggregate demand that we've lost because the private sectors are retrenching.
Some economists also believe Australia pulled the plug on its stimulus too early, and the commodities boom is the only reason we're not sharing Europe and America's pain.
We're lucky that we've got China, who's buying a lot of our commodities. Our mining sector is booming, and that's keeping stimulating private investment and keeping some growth going as the government is sharply cutting back.
The fear that I have about Australia is the commodities boom is going to come to an end. And what are you going to do when you no longer have that stimulus to your economy? Is the government going to step up to the plate?
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
They help some of the hunters most needy, but now organisations which have been busy giving are getting a little something back. 8 charities have received grants of between $100,000 and $750,000 from the Greater Charitable Foundation.
We're very pleased that it's come to this. The Greater gives $1 million minimum. It's 5% of their profit every year to this now.
Among the recipients, Autism Spectrum Australia, Heal for Life Australia and HMRI, along with the Hunter Institute of Mental Health, Starlight Children's Foundation and Kids Wish Foundation. This year, there's also some new names on the list.
We've picked out 5 recipients that have got a little bit different to others.
Young men are 4 times more likely to suicide than young women, yet much less likely to get help in their community.
So what we developed with the support of the Greater Foundation is a specific service to target and engage young men.
As to whether the spirit of giving will extend to passing on yesterday's interest rate cut to customers, the Greater will make a decision in the coming days.
We've got an executive meeting tomorrow to discuss that. We'll look at all the factors that we take into account when we make a decision on that nature, and then we'll refer it back to the board for the ultimate decision on that.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Our first stop was here, and we had a bit of a look at the port as you come in, and we saw the lighthouse and thought, wow, that's spectacular. Wouldn't that be an amazing place to get married?
Yeah.
The last time these rivals met, the Jets escaped with a 1-goal win. But it seems there's another mental edge for Newcastle that goes back 3 years.
Probably the one nagging thing in the back of their minds is the fact that we've won a grand final and they haven't. I think which is something which, until they get over that, it's going to be difficult for them.
Jets coach Gary Van Egmond has his own headaches to overcome, whether to use English import Francis Jeffers as the lead striker or Labino Haliti, who scored his first goal of the season last Saturday. But there are bigger concerns for defender Sun Hwan Byun. He's waiting on results from a cardiologist who found that the left ventricle in his heart is swollen.
We are now going through the process of ensuring that everything's okay. If everything's all right, we'll keep Byun in the team, of course, but we just don't know at this stage.
Meanwhile, there's speculation the club will try to lure fringe Socceroo and former Adelaide midfielder Nathan Burns when the transfer window opens next month. Kevin Mettam, NBN News. Despite some early scares against Tamworth, Merryweather upset the defending champions to stay alive in the Country Cup.
Playing Tamworth up there, they're a good side that have done well. So we knew it was going to be a tough game, but we knew if we play well that we could push them and get the win.
Pat Darwin had plenty to do with it. He top scored with 76. It capped off an incredible week for the all-rounder after gaining selection in New South Wales country.
Yeah, definitely. I think the confidence has grown over that time. I've been able to train a little bit harder as well, which is always nice. And it's certainly a confidence thing.
It's all about playing on one of the most famous grounds in the country, the SCG. Merryweather has won the final there twice before, most recently in 2008.
The days you'll never forget, and there's plenty of photos from the day that you still look at now, and they're great memories. The day itself is very special down there, so we're just hoping that we can play good cricket and get there.
University will also travel to Gosford for the quarter-finals, which get underway on December 28. Kevin Mettam, NBN News.
It was a big promise. Shorter train trips between Sydney and Newcastle and 200,000 trucks taken off the road each year thanks to a $1.1 billion upgrade of the Northern Sydney freight corridor.
We know that the conflict between freight traffic and commuter traffic causes delays. This project is all about ironing out those conflicts.
The Hunter's business sector is thrilled with the joint state-federal initiative.
This is obviously just the start, but they've recognised that there's a clear need to separate freight and passenger off the rail lines. So this is a really welcome announcement from the business community in the Hunter.
But there are concerns the changes could lead to even lengthier delays at the Adamstown and Islington rail gates. State MPs believe a western rail bypass, the building of a freight-specific line between Fassifern and Hexham, now needs to be a priority.
If we can in reality get freight out of the city, which would be a nice addition to what is happening here, that would make life in the Adamstown gates a great deal easier with just commuter trains coming through there.
Andrew Cornwell says it would be a nationally significant project that the federal government needs to support.
Once you get freight off the inner city railway lines, it will make an enormous difference for Newcastle. But even more importantly, as a national project, it will reduce the freight time between Brisbane and Sydney.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Ashley Peck has spent more than a fair share of her 15 years within these walls.
I come to outpatients clinic about every 6 weeks, and I have regular admissions when I'm sick.
A cystic fibrosis patient, she's one of a growing number of young people and babies who are treated here.
We do up to 150 patients a day through our patients, a huge number of all sorts of different specialties that work through here.
The services have outgrown the space and it's become outdated. Now it's in for a serious spruce up thanks to the annual Woolworths Fresh Food Kids Hospital appeal. It raised $220,000 for the hospital, despite the difficult economic times.
It's been tough out there in the business world, and retail, as you know, has taken a big hit. But, this is special because this is about family, this is about our people.
This is what the money will do, create a modern, family-friendly department.
We'll have nice surrounds, we'll have pleasant waiting areas, we'll have state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, so it's really a very exciting time.
It's going to be really good because, as you can see, it's pretty boring around here.
The refurbishment will happen next year.
Kicking, catching, throwing, these are considered to be the foundation of future physical activity. So if we can improve young children's skills, they're more likely to be active in the future.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, and while there's certainly toys in many stores, the Hunter's retail sector, like many, is doing it tough. According to the Australian Retailers Association, 10% of sales have been lost to internet shopping.
It all hurts, and internet buying
what it does, the money goes offshore and it doesn't come back. So it's lost to the economy.
But Colin Scott is doing what he can to keep the Christmas spirit alive. The windows of his store are home to intricate festive displays.
It's giving back to the community, really. We try to make things interesting. And this year our theme was the men's shed.
While Newcastle Council has decided against stringing up Christmas lights in Hunter Street Mall, Honeysuckle is ablaze, with 55,000 twinkling lights adorning NIB's headquarters. Newcastle's foreshore has also become a festive wonderland thanks to religious organisation God's House. This year's theme is Love Can.
And this month in December, the festive season, we want to celebrate what love can do in a life. And so we've set up Christmas lights right around the place. There's magic trees and lights just going everywhere. We've actually got a 12-metre high Christmas tree.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
An emotional court process is almost over for the Willis family, who today expressed its pain at losing brothers Luke and Sam. The pair, aged 28 and 22, was gunned down by Christopher Angelo Philippou on a nature strip outside Philippou's Mayfield house in June last year, following a neighbourhood feud. The boy's father, William, broke down at the sentence hearing as he spoke of the great emptiness he now feels after the murder of his sons. He said his innocence had been taken by the actions of the murderer and that he'll always carry the burden that he did not do enough to protect his sons. Vicky Willis looked squarely at her son's murderer as he sat in the dock, explaining how her old life died with them and her sense of safety and trust was forever shattered. She described what she called every parent's worst nightmare, the night police called to tell her that her two boys had been shot dead, and the pain at having to call her ex-husband and daughter, who were both overseas, to tell them what had happened. Jessica Willis, who was in Argentina that fateful night, burst into tears while telling the hearing that one day when she has children, they will never have cousins on that side of the family and she will never be an auntie.
Defence barrister Paul Rosser QC acknowledged that Philippou had shown no remorse, but argued that the murders were in the mid-range of seriousness because they weren't premeditated.
He waited for them to come over and murdered them on the footpath, and I'd like to say that for the record, that it was premeditated regardless of what the defence say.
Philippou will be sentenced in 2 weeks. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
He's a quality player, and he left Australia a few years ago, the top of his game, and he's still only very, very young, and you know, it's someone that we might look into.
Lee McKechnie is the first to admit he has a habit of starting well, then missing the mark, as seen recently at the New South Wales Open.
Not too many putts dropped in over 2 days, but no, look, I'm looking forward to getting back there next year and try and put in a good show.
But the Novocastrian can also make the most of some dire situations. He showed that same fighting spirit on the One Asia Tour this year, earning more than $55,000. Still, he knows there's work to do.
It's one of those things that, you know, young guys either peak really early or the older guys like myself, you know, just learn all the time.
Now he's aiming for a top 10 finish at the Australian Masters and he's feeling fit for a change.
Oh, definitely, yes. And because I had those injuries as well, I was just getting tired and tireder. So I felt like I had to lose, you know, I wanted to lose 8 kilos and I sort of lost that, which is good.
Kevin Metham, NBN News.
Yeah, that's the only reason we're really in it. If he steps like I know he can find the front pretty quick and hopefully hand up to one of the back markers and be somewhere there in the finish, hopefully. So yeah.
Two years ago, these siblings walked into the unknown, a sport neither were familiar with, but both wanted to try. Now Nathan and Luke Evans are favourites for the Australian outrigger canoe marathon title.
We play that down and, you know, it's not something we carry around and think about too much. Our attitude is we just go there, do the best we can.
And together with some professional coaching and intense training, it's worked. They quickly learned how to race with efficiency rather than power while using the swell.
And learning those little minute details that actually help you get better and quicker. So the idea is to go faster with less effort.
The paddlers earned a state title this year and dominated at a national event on Hamilton Island. They put some of that success down to their strong bond.
We've only had one or two little instances where we've snapped at one another or something, but, you know, and I'll own up and say that was my fault. So
I think 1 or 2 was pretty good.
Yeah, look, we're pretty happy.
The duo will contest the Nationals in Coffs Harbour this weekend. Kevin Mettam, NBN News.